Parole.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, chers étudiants, chers diplômés, chers amis, j'ai le grand plaisir de vous souhaiter la bienvenue ce soir sur le campus de l'ESA à l'occasion de cette rencontre avec le Président Carlos Ghosn que nous sommes très heureux de pouvoir accueillir une nouvelle fois à l'ESA. C'est un très grand honneur et un grand plaisir de vous accueillir ce soir, Monsieur le Président, et nous tenons à vous remercier très chaleureusement d'avoir accepté de venir à la rencontre de nos étudiants libanais, français, de différentes nationalités, et qui se trouvent accompagnés par plusieurs chefs d'entreprise proches de l'ESA, mais qui sont toujours très heureux de pouvoir venir vous écouter. Monsieur le Président, vous connaissez l'amitié que l'ESA vous témoigne. Comme vous, l'ESA porte en elle la double identité française et libanaise. Elle est attachée à la promotion de l'amitié entre nos deux pays et elle est portée par un très vif intérêt pour la jeunesse, bien entendu, pour la promotion de la jeunesse, pour son orientation et pour son insertion dans le monde professionnel. Vous avez accepté de venir à notre rencontre à plusieurs reprises et cette fois-ci encore, nous vous remercions d'avoir accepté de venir nous parler de gouvernance puisque ce sera le thème principal de cette rencontre. Gouvernance, la gouvernance qui est un thème très important dans le monde entier aujourd'hui et en particulier au Liban. La Banque du Liban a elle-même souhaité créer un institut pour la finance et la gouvernance qui est basé sur le campus de l'ESA et dont la direction a été confiée à l'ESA. C'est donc au nom de tous les étudiants de l'ESA, au nom de nos diplômés, que je vous adresse nos plus vifs remerciements pour votre soutien et pour avoir accepté, une fois encore, de venir à notre rencontre. Permettez-moi, Monsieur le Président, avant de vous céder la parole, de rappeler quelques chiffres clés de l'alliance Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi, dont vous êtes aujourd'hui le président. La nouvelle alliance a atteint au premier semestre 2017 la première place mondiale devant Volkswagen et Toyota. En 2016, l'année de l'intégration de Mitsubishi, l'Alliance a produit près de 10 millions de voitures, soit un véhicule sur 9 vendu sur le marché mondial. L'Alliance est aussi l'un des pionniers, ou le pionnier sur le marché de la voiture électrique. Et aujourd'hui, la moitié des voitures électriques en circulation provient d'une marque de l'Alliance, Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi. Chers étudiants, chers amis, nous avons le grand honneur d'accueillir ce soir un homme d'affaires de très grande envergure. Sa présence ici ce soir est pour nous tous un encouragement à aller de l'avant, à entreprendre et à bâtir. Puisse votre exemple, Monsieur le Président, inspirer les jeunes générations, les inviter à l'action et leur donner l'envie d'entreprendre. Merci à tous pour votre attention et très bonne soirée avec le Président Ghosn.
Avant d'inviter sur scène M. Carlos Ghosn, président directeur général de l'Alliance Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi, nous allons visionner une courte vidéo. Monsieur le Président, la scène est à vous.
Mesdames, Messieurs, bonsoir. Merci, Monsieur Attali, pour votre chaleureux accueil. C'est toujours un plaisir d'être parmi vous. Avant de passer aux questions-réponses, qui est quand même l'essentiel de notre réunion aujourd'hui, permettez-moi quelques mots sur la façon dont nous concevons la gouvernance au sein de l'Alliance, qui regroupe aujourd'hui 3 entreprises, Renault, Nissan et Mitsubishi. D'abord, et c'est très important, notre approche est très pragmatique. Nous entendons par bonne gouvernance, non pas comme une fin en soi, mais comme un outil nécessaire au bon fonctionnement de l'entreprise, surtout à sa pérennité et au service, évidemment, de la performance, puisque nous sommes une entreprise. Quelques principes de gouvernance tels que nous les avons établis, nous ne sommes pas les seuls d'ailleurs. D'abord, la conformité. La gouvernance doit pouvoir garantir la conformité aux réglementations financières, boursières, et à l'ensemble des obligations de transparence et d'intégrité attendues des grandes entreprises. Cette conformité est essentielle, elle contribue à instaurer la confiance vis-à-vis du marché, vis-à-vis des investisseurs, vis-à-vis bien sûr des actionnaires. C'est nécessaire, mais ce n'est pas suffisant. Respecter les règles vous garantit d'être dans la loi, mais certainement pas d'être performant. Ensuite, il y a la flexibilité. Pour servir les objectifs de l'entreprise, qui sont des objectifs de croissance, de profitabilité, la gouvernance doit pouvoir s'adapter selon l'évolution conjoncturelle ou structurelle de l'entreprise. Des changements d'organisation, de processus de prise de décision sont souvent nécessaires. À l'Alliance, pour créer des économies d'échelle, nous avons commencé par mutualiser ce qu'il y avait de plus simple pour nous, notamment les achats. Dès 1999, nous avons mis en place des équipes transverses et des équipes à travers les entreprises, des équipes légères qui pouvaient travailler entre Renault et Nissan. 2 ans plus tard, nous avons créé une structure commune, Renault-Nissan, dédiée aux achats. 15 ans plus tard, en 2014, nous avons fait converger d'autres fonctions comme les ressources humaines, la recherche et le développement, la production et la logistique. Les synergies ont atteint des sommes très significatives puisqu'il s'agit de 3 milliards d'euros et en 2016, elles se sont montées à 5 milliards d'euros. Donc la gouvernance de l'Alliance s'est faite dans le temps en suivant l'évolution des hommes et de nos façons de travailler ensemble de façon vivante au plus près de la réalité opérationnelle et en respectant bien sûr toujours les exigences de performance. Ensuite, il y a la transparence et la lisibilité. La bonne gouvernance doit mettre en place les hommes et les processus qui garantissent une bonne transparence et une bonne remontée des informations. Je vous donne un exemple. Chez Renault, en 2005, l'une des grandes difficultés était que l'entreprise n'était pas en conscience, n'avait pas conscience d'être en mauvaise santé. Les résultats étaient apparemment bons, alors qu'en réalité, notre profit était très fragile, puisque reposait sur un marché, la France, et une voiture, Mégane. Nous étions fragiles et nous n'avions pas pris conscience de cela. Pour une bonne remontée des informations, il s'agit bien sûr de créer des conditions de débat, d'écoute, de prise en compte d'opinions à différents niveaux de l'entreprise, ce qui nous amène à un principe suivant, qui est le principe d'équilibre au niveau de la gouvernance, c'est-à-dire créer des conditions d'une prise de décision équilibrée, c'est-à-dire où les opinions de toutes les parties prenantes ont pu être entendues, débattues, pas forcément prises en compte, mais avant la prise de décision. Au sein de l'Alliance, nous veillons ainsi systématiquement à ce que chaque entreprise membre soit représentée et que toutes les décisions se prennent dans une démarche gagnant-gagnant. Les démarches dans lesquelles l'un perd, l'autre gagne ne marchent jamais. Nous l'avons retranscrit dans notre organisation avec des structures mêlant à parité des personnes de Renault et de Nissan et bien sûr maintenant de Mitsubishi. Au sein d'un directoire, au sein de chacune des fonctions convergées et bien sûr au sein des équipes transverses. Nous recherchons l'équilibre entre hommes et femmes, entre compétences diverses, entre cultures diverses et entre nationalités diverses. Cet équilibre sert l'indépendance de l'entreprise et donc la qualité des décisions qui y sont prises et enfin, finalement et toujours, sa performance. Ces règles ont contribué à créer au sein de l'Alliance, comme de chacun de ses membres, des valeurs de respect des cultures, de respect des identités et de respect des marques. Dans une société où, à l'heure actuelle, globalisation s'oppose à protectionnisme, dans une entreprise globale où la mobilisation de tous est absolument nécessaire et où les nationalités ont tendance à s'effacer, ce principe d'équilibre est essentiel pour que chacun se sente impliqué. Il n'y a pas, comme vous le savez, de motivation possible sans une implication de l'ensemble des personnes qui constituent l'entreprise. Les équipes de Renault n'auraient jamais accepté de travailler dans le cadre de l'Alliance s'ils avaient perçu qu'ils travaillaient pour des Japonais. Les équipes de Nissan n'auraient jamais accepté de travailler dans l'Alliance si c'était aperçu qu'ils étaient en train de travailler pour une entreprise française. Finalement, je voulais parler de la simplicité. Enfin, et une fois prises en compte les contraintes et complexités liées au contrôle et à la gestion d'une entreprise globale, la gouvernance doit simplifier les prises de décision. L'objectif est de servir la performance, donc l'efficacité. La gouvernance est donc un outil essentiel pour le bon fonctionnement de l'entreprise. Elle minimise les risques, garantit la conformité aux attentes légales, assure une prise de décision équilibrée et saine, et surtout traçable. Au sein de Renault, de Nissan et de l'Alliance, la gouvernance constitue aussi un socle solide pour faire de la diversité une richesse et une force, plutôt qu'une source d'incompréhension ou de conflit. Alors, quelles leçons pour une entreprise familiale? La complexité des entreprises familiales ressemble à celle des grandes entreprises. Il s'agit là aussi de créer des conditions pour que les décisions soient prises de façon équilibrée, malgré les éventuelles divergences entre actionnaires et dirigeants, dans l'intérêt global et pérenne de l'entreprise. Un défi supplémentaire est que les décisions soient prises avec objectivité, ce qu'un actionnariat et management familial peut rendre difficile. Les processus des entreprises globales peuvent être utiles. En revanche, un atout des entreprises familiales est la tendance à s'aligner sur des objectifs de long terme avec, d'une certaine mesure, un management et un actionnariat qui sont totalement en ligne et dans lesquels il n'y a absolument pas de différence. Les personnes prenant les risques étant ceux qui aussi prennent des décisions. C'est le sens des plans stratégiques que nous déployons, réinjecter du long terme pour garantir la durabilité de l'entreprise au-delà des objectifs et des impératifs à court terme pour le bénéfice de tous. Je vais m'arrêter là. Je vous remercie de votre attention et je suis prêt à répondre aux questions des personnes qui ont été sélectionnées. Merci.
And now the remaining part of this event will be held in English, since a lot of our students, MBA students and executive MBA students, are English educated. Please help me welcome on stage this session's moderator, Monsieur Nicolas Bouchater, Chairman of AN Bouchater.
Good evening. Today, family-owned businesses represents 95% of all businesses established around the globe. The same even more applies in Lebanon. However, according to an HBS study, 70% of them failed because of lack of succession, and the second generation never gets a chance to take over. A big reason for this failure is lack of discipline, lack of shared values, lack of shared vision, mainly lack of governance. Today, we are honored to have among us Mr. Ghosn, who is successfully managing the longest-running transnational partnership between major automotive manufacturers that sells 10 million vehicles around the globe. So governance is a specialty. The question today is to which extent proper governance in such multinational conglomerates be applied or applicable to family businesses. Is it possible to apply and sustain proper governance in a relatively smaller family business? What are the advantages of being properly governed? How to create a balance between a disciplined governance and innovation? Therefore, A brilliant set of young entrepreneurs, business leaders, and students at EMBA and MBA of ESA will join the stage in order to ask Mr. Ghusn questions about that topic. 30 minutes, 6 questions, and then we hand over to a Q&A session. So please welcome on stage Mr. Johnny Rad, a young, dynamic family business owner in the field of industrial packaging. Tahani Sinjad, an HR senior manager at Deloitte & Touche, an MBA student, and Ralph Hamsi, head of unit in the corporate banking department at Biblos Bank. Ladies first, Tahani, would you mind asking your first question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ghusn, for this opportunity again. So we understand from what you say the importance of implementing proper governance within an organization, without which it cannot succeed. However, rigid governance and discipline might create bureaucracy and limit or hinder innovation and creativity. Especially that millennials are not very creative in a very disciplined environment. So my question to you is, how do we drive a balance between discipline and creativity, between governance and innovation?
Yeah, well, this is obviously a fundamental question because, as you know, we have been through a major financial crisis globally in 2008, 2009, which obviously created a lot of distrust from the public and large corporations, starting with the banks, but also going to the other large industrial organizations. And so we have today, we are all facing stricter rules. We are facing much more scrutiny. The rules when it comes to emissions, safeties, audits, accounting are much more stricter, and there is a risk that this stifled the company in a certain way, that the flexibility that the company needs to adapt to an evolution of technology and evolution of competition. But in fact, this is a challenge. It's absolutely not a problem. That means this is something which is coming through your way. So we have to, and we did, we are much more rigorous into the implementation of the rules. But at the same time, we are opening spaces inside the organization to prepare for the future. I mean, just to avoid being very theoretical, you all know that the car in 10 years is going to be very different from the car you're driving today. The amount of technology coming our own way are absolutely tremendous. I think you're going to see more changes in your car for the next 10 years than you have seen for the last 50. You used to have an internal combustion engine, you're going to have electric cars. You used to have cars which were mainly a machine to transport your body. You're going to have a connected space which is mobile and autonomous. You used to drive your car yourself. You're going to be driven by your car, and you're going to have the choices. All of this is not Star Wars technology coming in 2050. These are things prepared and planned to arrive in 2021, 2022, 2023. In order to prepare for this, you need to be very flexible. You need to be very flexible. You cannot just, this is not business as usual. You need to go for new technology. You need to buy new company. You need to work with startup and at the same time do the traditional work. You have to do it and at the same time be able to face all the scrutiny that continues towards large organization. So what I want to tell you is we need to take it as a challenge. It's not absolutely, that means bureaucracy by itself. What is bureaucracy? Bureaucracy, by definition, is people doing things forgetting what is the aim of these things. This is bureaucracy. I mean, at the end of the day, you do something and you forget about why you're doing it. So you keep doing it. You know, you stamp something, you do something, but you forget why you're doing it. So when the reasons for which you're doing things disappear, people continue to implement the same rules. This is bureaucracy. So what you want to do in an organization like this is making sure systematically that you're phasing out the rules which have absolutely no more objective and maintain and deepen the rules that continue to serve their aims. That's the only way you can do it, which requires a lot of vigilance from the part of the leaders of the organization. If not, if there is some kind of laziness into the organization, you end up applying a lot of rules, the old ones that do not serve any purpose, plus the new ones which are introduced by the new regulation.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Ralph is a corporate banker, so can we have your question?
Yes. As Nicolas said, more than 90% of the Lebanese companies are family businesses, while only 15 companies are listed in the Beirut Stock Exchange. My question, Mr. Ghosn, is what are the mechanisms that can be implemented within a family business, especially when it reaches the second or even the third generation, to ensure the right decision-making in terms of strategy, expansion, continuity, or even financial markets?
Yeah. You know, I'm very familiar with family business because you probably know that I started my career in a family business, which grew a lot because it is a Michelin group, which is owned at more than 35% by the Michelin family. And in fact, when I was in Michelin, it was a Michelin member of the family who was running the group. Today, it's not anymore the case. So I'm very familiar with the problematic, the strengths and the weaknesses of family businesses, obviously at a very large scale. Like every family business, it starts small, and if it's successful, it ends up very big. So I think one of the major things, and it's a very tough challenge, I'm not saying it's easy, is at a certain point in time, the family needs to know, do I want to be a shareholder or do we want to be a manager of the business? This is an extremely important point. And you have as much success and failure from two camps. People who decided to continue to manage, have one of the hair managing the business. You have cases of success, you have cases of failures. And you have people who decided at a certain point in time to say, no, we are going to limit ourselves as shareholders, and we're going to be able to select a professional manager to manage our business. This is a very important point. If you remain between the two, you're doomed. I don't know one single example of a family company which has been hesitating between these two directions without, at a certain point, hitting a wall. And I can give you a very simple example, but I won't because I know that there is press here today, so I don't want to be quoted. I don't want to be quoted, but it's very systematic. You need to make this first choice. The second choice is, making sure that there are some values that needs to be respected by the company, whether they are the family values, for which people consider that there is a reason for this family to continue to control this company. There is a huge advantage to the family business in the long-term vision. Because usually, when you don't have a family in a business, usually you have much more a tendency for short-term management. While when you have a family, people think about the sons and the grandsons or granddaughters, and they have a tendency to make decisions, maybe balancing the interest at the short term with the interest to the long term. While people who are more on a public kind have a more tendency to advantage the short term because this is what people see. They don't see too much the consequence of that decision 5 or 6 years down the road. So I would say from my own experience is a decision has to be made at a certain point in time about the family withdraw from management or the family stay in management. And second, just make sure that the value that in a certain way make the presence of the family as a main shareholder in the company are very obvious. So the last thing I would like to say is in the case of Lebanon, because you mentioned the case of Lebanon, I think it's very difficult to be in a family business in Lebanon. I'm going to tell you why. Because the market in Lebanon is very small. And for family business to prosper, it needs to grow. And in order to grow, it has to open up to other markets. If you don't open up to other markets, it's a question of time for the company to start to face difficulties. So opening up for export and finding markets outside Lebanon, absolutely essential for the growth of any particularly of any family company. And it's not very easy because, as you know, and I've said it many times, one of the problems we face in the Middle East is there is no common market. There is a common market on the paper, but in reality, it doesn't exist. Because you know very well that every time you cross the border, you have 15 rules which are going to forbid for you the free flow of products. So in a certain way, there is a huge market of hundreds of millions of people, but it's fragmented into pieces with a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of rules, which is the real handicap that family businesses in Lebanon, like in other countries in the regions, are facing. But for me, the most important thing is making sure that on top of having a clear vision of your own market, open up for export, because this is where the growth will be coming from.
Thank you.
So now let's take the question from the young family business owner, Johnny.
If I may. So as a family business owner, I always find it difficult to delegate managerial tasks to non-family members. What, in your opinion, are the best practices for achieving advanced levels of management delegation to non-family members? And how do you ensure that the person in charge will be able to equate between what is best for the company and its growth and the family's interests? A specific example would be a decision between using the profit to invest in the company versus distributing dividends to family members.
Well, first, I think that the family should manage as long as it makes sense. I don't think there are rules, by the way. I don't think there are rules. Usually when the business is small, the family manages. There is somebody representing the family who's managing the business as long as there is a certain scale which is limited. But with the development of the business and the growth of the business, and probably the multiplication of the descendants of the founder, first, you start to have some conflicts between family members. Second, you may not have the right person for the job, particularly that the job become more difficult with the extension of the business. So this is where you have the tough decisions about, do you maintain the control in the family, or do you give up the control and find somebody from outside to manage the company? And frankly, there are no rules. You have as much success and failure from one side or the other. The advantage of having somebody from the family is the fact that obviously he's very legitimate because he represents the shareholders, the owners of the company. The inconvenience of this is it's difficult to fire him if he's not doing a good job. Okay? So then the family is in a situation, and frankly, I found it even at all the levels. I mean, do you want to upset part of the family, or do you want to save your company? Do you want to optimize profit, or do you want to find of a agreement inside the family? Which is a real problem, because at the end of the day, if you make a company is to try as much as possible to create a lot of value and to optimize this company and to grow it for many generations. But the presence of somebody managing this company who can become a handicap at a certain point in time, you don't know how to get rid of him. While if it's somebody from outside, there's absolutely no difficulty to get rid of him. But obviously, if he's not doing a good job, so there is much more responsiveness. But this person may have a tough task if there is a heavy presence of the family, because he never thinks he is very free to implement and execute the decisions which are necessary. Again, there is no one single rule. There is no one set of victories and defeats. You can see as many success and failure as you have cases. But in general, when the group becomes very big, it's very rare that the family continue to manage the group. I practically don't know any case from the Fords to the Michelin to the Peugeot you take all the large family which have been successful, at a certain point in time, they all have given up management to somebody else.
Thank you. So let's get back to Tahani.
My second question, Mr. Ghassan, is that the problematic of an HR director is the employee's perception that in a family business there is no room for career growth. So how does governance address this issue?
Yeah, well, this is a very interesting question, because it's true that a lot of people, when they join, but in a certain way, when you join a family business, you know that there is a glass ceiling. You know it. It's a risk you take. If not, you should not join a family business. So when I joined Michelin, I knew I would never become a CEO. I knew. So I was not competing for the job, because I knew that at a certain point in time, François Michelin would select his son to manage the group. I knew it. That's one of the reasons for which, after a certain point in time, I joined Renault, and you know the end of the story. And if I wanted to become CEO, I have to become CEO in a public company where you're not competing with family members, because when you compete against family members, it's not fair. I mean, it's not fair in the sense that family members start with a huge advantage, and you're going to have to overcome this huge advantage with much more capability than any family members. And on top of this, it can create a lot of acrimony inside it. So I would say when you join a family company, you know there is a glass ceiling, you have to accept it. When you accept it, then you follow the flow, you accept to be number 2, number 3, number 4, but you have the risk that you'll never be number 1 because in a certain way, you don't represent the shareholders, the owners of the company who, they make the decision to have the company managed by somebody of their own. So I don't think there is a rule. You need to tell people immediately you're joining a family company, so you need to know that there is a glass ceiling. That doesn't mean you cannot progress. Yes, you can progress until a certain point. After this point, it's not fair game. It's not. You need to know it. And then when you know it, then it's okay. Now you can do part of your career, and if you want to go for the top job, you can try to go for a top job somewhere else.
But how governance helps in changing that? Does it help to some extent?
No, frankly, I don't think, you know, a lot of people see governance as, obviously there is part of governance which is an obligation. You have obligation to follow the law. You have obligation to follow the regulation. You have obligation to pay taxes. There is no margin of maneuver over there. But then part of governance is your own decision about how you're going to extract the best performance out of your company. So you have these two sides of it. So a lot of people see governance as everything which is an obligation. No, governance is also all the decisions you make to try to reorganize the company in order to make sure that the company is going to give the best of itself. And I think that this is where, if you want to motivate people in your company and you're a family business, you're going to need to be very clear about what's possible, what's not possible. And probably you need to compensate by the fact that people cannot go for top jobs, compensate it in a different way. For example, usually in family company, people are more stable because family organizations have a tendency to stick to their management longer, to stick to their employee longer. They are more loyal to their employee than a normal company. So this is an advantage that you can feature. So there are a lot of soft side of the family company that needs to be, in a certain way, put in front of people without ever telling them stories, so just being very straightforward, but without forgetting the fact that particularly when family decides to manage their own company, to tell them, forget about the top job. I mean, you can aim for anything else, but forget about the top jobs.
Thank you.
Ralph.
Okay. In the last 10 years, and according to a study done by EY, an increasing number of family businesses were looking to hire non-family members as their CEOs. However, because of lack of proper governance, a lot of them did not succeed in their mission. Mr. Hossein, what is the proper governance, in your opinion, that could be implemented to increase the success of their CEOs?
Yeah. Well, you know, the proper governance is the one. No, I understand, and this is a case that we often see that, obviously, when you move from a family management to a non-family management, there is a tendency from the family to be much stricter with the CEO who is not part of the family than it is with the CEO coming from the family. Because if you're going to fight or confront a CEO coming from the family, you're starting a kind of family confrontation, which nobody wants. When a new CEO comes, obviously the rules must be very clear. You know, what's the role of a CEO? What's the job of CEO? The job of the CEO is growing the company and making it profitable in a sustainable way. That's it. That's it. What is a good CEO? A good CEO is somebody who systematically grow his company and make it profitable in a way which is sustainable. Okay? If I'm here today, it's not because there is, you know, anything else, that there is a track record. You follow the track record. You follow the track record of Nissan. You follow the track record of Renault. And then from the track record of growth and profitability and sustainability, you say, oh, he's a good CEO. You would not be listening to me if the company was declining and the company was unprofitable. You would not be interested in the CEO. So the CEO, by definition, his role is growing the company, making it profitable in a sustainable way. So this should be very clear when you hire a new CEO. It's not a question that you need to please Uncle X or Grandma Z, or it's not that. You should be very clearly. This company is today at this level. The job is to grow it from here to here within the next 2, 3, 4 years. This is the level of profitability. We want this profitability to move from this level to that level within this period of time. And we want you to do it in a way where at the end of this period, the company is stronger, better than what it is today. That's what we call sustainability. That's it. If you put the contract in the hand of the person, it's very difficult after this. If after 1 year there is no growth, or the profit is going backward, or the method used are not acceptable, you can fire the CEO by telling, I'm sorry, we had the contract, you're not respecting the contract. And avoid all the subjective things, which usually, at the end of the day, demoralizing the company. Because let's not forget, if there is a fight between a CEO and the family, at the end of the day, the damage is at the level of the employees, because they are watching this, and they are demoralized by what's happening. On the contrary, if the contract is very clear, and you're firing a CEO, they will understand why they are firing the CEO. Because at the end of the day, the job is growth, profit, and sustainability.
So as a small family business, we tend to overlook the governance practices since we tend to think they are only applicable within a sizable company. What do you consider as the most important governance practices, and at what stage should such practices be implemented? For example, in the early stages of developing the company, or later on after it is well established? And what kind of resources would a small family business need in order to implement such practices?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, obviously, these are personal choices. You ask me the question, I'm going to answer you something. You ask another CEO, we're going to give you something else. I think that no matter what is the size of the company, the major element in terms of governance to make the company credible, whatever it is size, whatever a family business, etc., for me is transparency of the governance. That's absolutely essential. And this is valid, by the way, for companies. This is valid for cities. This is valid for countries. This is valid for governments all the time. The most demoralizing thing is decisions are made and you don't know why they are made, and you don't know who is making them, and you don't know who is accountable for them. This is the most demoralizing situation, which is at the base of the decline of countries, companies, cities, or any organization. So the most important thing is just make sure that there is transparency in the governance. Transparency in the governance, it doesn't mean that you own every single person in the company to know exactly. No, you need to say how the decisions are being made, what are the different entities contributing to it. Every time you take an important decision, take the time to explain this decision, what you're expecting from this decision, and share the results, good or bad, with the people. If you follow this rule, no matter what, people will consider that the governance of the company is very good, no matter what is the size. So my own choice would be to say, work the transparency of the governance, make sure whatever you are in difficulty or whatever you are growing and very successful, make sure that your decisions are traceable, make sure that people understand why you're taking them, and make sure at the end of the day who is accountable for these decisions.
Thank you. So at the moment, 30 minutes have passed, and it's time to have your questions. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please, I would ask you to raise your hand and then to introduce yourself. Meanwhile, while waiting for the first question, we have hostesses I could not see because of the lights, which are just, can you raise your hand just for people to see you? So what we learned from you, Mr. Russon, in this discussion is that families tend to suffer a long time before changing. And sometimes it comes too late. It reminds us of the Graham family owning the Washington Post for $7 billion in 2004, however, obliged to sell the business for $250 million to Amazon 2 years ago. So if we learn from you something tonight, it's probably to give the control to the right person, and this person should be one person. Mr. Zakar.
Hi. I am the chairman of an insurance company. I am the president of the Insurance Association. And I like very much your definition of governance, but it's completely different of what we know about governance. The governance, they explain to us and they teach us that it's establishing for the board of directors different committees, like the audit committee, the succession committee, the salaries committee, and so on. So it's quite different from what you say, and I like very much what you are saying. This is my first question. The second question is that we are coming back from a conference with my son, who is an electronic engineer, and the conference was on artificial intelligence. And they just explained us that in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, all the GAFA companies are going to kill every business, starting from banks, continuing with insurance companies, financial institutions. I suppose there will be no malls anymore. And you are going also, you yourself, to suffer for the motor industry. So I would like to have your opinion on those two questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The part that you mentioned, board of directors, audit committee, strategic committee, salary committee, committee d'établissement, etc., they are part of governance. They are not all governance. That's what I'm saying. So yes, these are things you can't choose. You have to have a board of directors. You have to have a committee d'audit. You have to do these kind of things. But you cannot limit yourself. Governance is not only this. Governance is also what is the process by which you make decisions into the company and make it official inside the company, and doesn't depend on the rules, because you can organize yourself in a very different way. For example, at the level of the alliance, we are 3 autonomous companies working together in a model which exists nowhere in the world. We have a unique governance system. In each company, we respect the rules, but at the same time, we have a set of decisions and processes which are unique to us. So what I wanted to tell you today is everything you mentioned is part of the governance. It's not all governance. These are the things that you need to do in order to respect the laws and the regulation and respect your shareholders, etc. But at the same time, you need always to adapt your organization to be efficient, to grow, and to be profitable. Now, on the second question, where you said artificial intelligence. Well, you know, every time that there is a turn, in French we say un point d'inflexion, which is happening today with the development of artificial intelligence, you have a lot of legends which are written. In the car industry, the big legend is Tesla is reinventing the car industry through electric cars, and soon all the car makers are going to become dinosaurs. This is the legend. And a lot of people are buying into this legend because they are betting on Tesla against the car makers. Okay? That's the story. Now, you can believe it, you cannot believe it. Now, let's go to the facts. We are business people. We like legend, but we live by the facts. The facts that today, 95 million cars are sold every year. 95 million. From the 95 million, Tesla sells 80,000, and the other car maker sell 94,920,000. That's a fact. The market capitalization of Tesla is much higher than General Motors or Ford, even though Tesla has sold 80,000 cars without profit, while General Motors and Ford making multi-billion dollars profit and selling millions of cars. So you say, hey, wait a minute, is there something wrong? Yes, there is something wrong. Is you're making a bet that General Motors and Ford and the other car makers will not embrace the revolution coming. If you make this bet, then you say somebody else is going to occupy the land. But when you see everything coming in the car industry, and you say, okay, the car makers like Daimler and BMW, I'm not mentioning Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, obviously, you know, they are going into this way, then the battle is going to be different. So my point is, don't believe that artificial intelligence is going to work against you. Position yourself to use artificial intelligence to your benefit. And if you use artificial intelligence to your benefit, then you're going to be a winner. If, on the contrary, you're afraid of it and you stay on the side, somebody's going to use it against you, and you're going to be a loser. But if you say, no, no, what is artificial intelligence? What's going to happen? What may happen in my own industry? And I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to transform my company in order to use artificial intelligence to my benefit. Then you're going to be a winner. I think it's a completely open field by which the people who are going to smartly use the new technology to their benefit will be winners. And it may not be the startups. It may not be newcomers. Newcomers win when the old worlds do not believe in their message. This is what I mean. But when the old world not only understand the message, but transform the message, then they always have an advantage.
Merci. Good evening, Mr. Hassan. Paul Saikali from Progress. Regarding the proper governance, we had what happened in the United States with Volkswagen. You were talking about being very scrutinizing and very strict in the regulation. And here we saw that very big scandal appear regarding the diesel issue. So what's your, and even they are talking about other companies and Volkswagen also having this issue with the American government. What's your opinion about that?
Well, obviously I'm not going to make comment on competition, but what I can tell you that every time there is somewhere somebody cheating, no matter what is the level, there is a suspicion on everybody else. It's normal, it's human, okay? Somebody's cheating, you start to doubt all the people around by saying, okay, who's doing the same thing? In the case of Volkswagen, there was a device which was put in the engine. I'm not inventing anything, I'm telling you what they said themselves, etc. In 10 million engines. And the device was bought from Bosch. Bosch sold the device, telling them this device is not legal. They put it in the engine. And the reason for which they put it in the engine is because they wanted at the same time to fulfill the emission standard and keep the power of the engine. Because usually you have to choose between power and emission. It's difficult to have both. So the more the engine is clean, the less power it has. And the more power it has, the less clean it is. It's a very, very simple rule. What I try to do is to say, okay, I want the power and I want the emission. So I have this device which is going to detect when the car is being, and again, I'm not inventing here, I'm telling you exactly what they said and what the American authorities have said, and they are paying for it. Okay, that's it. Now, when you have something like this, there is always a suspicion, okay, who is doing the same? Okay, so now you start to go after every single car maker, you make studies, you make analysis, etc. So far, there have been suspicion that there have been some rules which have been overturned, but nobody has been really accused of doing the same thing, which is clearly cheating and putting a device to deceive the people who were making the control of the emission. That's the reality. This being said, it's very human. Whenever somebody makes a mistake, everybody's suspicious. Look what happened with the banks in 2008. Financial system collapsed. Now, there is a suspicion on all the bankers. You were a banker, you were suspicious. Even though maybe 2 or 3 or 4 banks made some extremes, but all the banks were under suspicion. It's very human. All of a sudden, when there is a dysfunction, people start to see dysfunction somewhere else. I believe that in a certain way, what we are seeing at the level of the emission is you cannot make a confusion between governance and which is the proper rules to administer a business, and the fact that from time to time people are not going to be respecting the rules, and they're going to be paying for this. No matter what, you'll always have these cases. So the rules need to take this in consideration, but this doesn't mean that you can throw the suspicion on everybody who's doing the same business.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Roy Abu Zaid. I am a journalist and a reporter in Tahqiq MTV. Sir, as I see, the background behind you is in French, but the conference is in English. So, in the world of governance and to develop our organization, what should I trust the most? What I see or what I hear, and why? Thank you.
Well, first the language. The language have been selected by Lisa.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so they asked me, we want the speech in French, and we want the Q&A in English, and I did it. You would be surprised if they tell me, we want the speech in French, and the Q&A in English, and I was doing something different. I think it would be a little bit a mess and obviously outside the expectation. Second, you should not believe what you hear. You should not believe what people say. You should believe what people do. This is, for me, the most important thing. Because in the world of companies, there is a lot of wording. There is a lot of visions. There are a lot of words. There are a lot of speeches, which is normal. But at the end of the day, what is important is we as businesses, we are here to transform reality. That's what a business. We are here to bring a product, bring a service, change part of the reality of the life of people. That's what we are here for. So what is important is what we do. And what is important is what is the result of we do. So what we say, frankly, is probably 5% of the importance, and 95% is what we do.
May I add that the ESA Business School is becoming a regional and school with a French spirit of excellence. This is why it's being in English and French. Yes, please. We can take 2 questions and we shall close the conference and move to the cocktail.
I'm Shant Atamian. I'm an EMBA student at ESA. I just have a question concerning any future cooperation or a kind of alliance between Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance and Tesla.
Any future cooperation?
Yes, how do you see it?
I don't think we will have any cooperation. I'm going to tell you why. Because we launched the electric car in 2009. We were the first one. Tesla followed, and as we said, we're going to go for the core market, particularly with the launch with the Leaf of Nissan and the Zoe of Renault and the Kangoo of Renault for the light commercial vehicle. Tesla said, okay, I'm going to go after premium. And they came with their premium car. So in a certain way, we are accomplices. Because Elon Musk and myself, we have been promoting electric cars for many years. And we are very happy to see that everybody today is embracing electric cars. So I'm not competing against him. He's not competing against me. He's in the premium business. I'm not interested in the premium business. I'm interested in the core market. But the problem is today he has against him Daimler, BMW, Audi announcing a multitude of premium electric cars. So he's going to have to face these guys. So he's trying to go to the core market, but in the core market, as you know, price is absolutely essential. And in order to be price competitive, you need scale. Obviously, when I've been producing this year 10.5 million cars, and he's producing 80,000, he has no chance to compete on cost. He can't. And you know, people choose, particularly when you come to the core business, people choose the car in function of a lot of attributes. But particularly, forget the premium, which is 10% of the global market. From the 95 million cars sold every year, probably 10 million are premium. 85 million are core market, low-cost cars, average cars. And for these people, every dollar counts. The price is absolutely essential. And scale is very important. Renault, in the case of Renault Nissan, we buy every year for $120 billion of goods every year. So when you buy with $120 billion, you can imagine that we can, in a certain way, impose productivity gains, impose cost efficiencies because of the scale. If we were selling 100,000 cars, we'll have no leverage on our suppliers to get this. And this is where I think, in my opinion, Elon Musk has done a great job to help me develop electric cars. But now he's going to face a tough battle because he's going to have BMW, Mercedes, and Audi against him. And this is going to be a different piece of cake.
I see a lot raising hands. However, it's the last question. And the microphone is in the hand of this lucky man.
Thank you. My name is Khalid. I'm an executive MBA student at ESA. First of all, I would like to thank you for your precious time and congratulate you on the new Coleos. I'm a proud owner. One more question. What would Mr. Ghosn at this age advise Carlos Ghosn at 25 or 30? Would he advise him to go for the top job, or would he advise him to go for a startup and a family business?
Today?
Yes.
You know, I have 4 children. 3 of them are start-uppers.
Thank you.
Yeah, inshallah.
Raja?
Good evening. My name is Raja Abdallah. I'm a management consultant dealing very often with family-led companies and governance issues. Mr. Ghosn, first, thank you for being here. From your knowledge of the main family corporations in Lebanon, and I know you invested in the country, what's your ranking of the governance within our family companies in Lebanon? What's your opinion of issues such as transparency, and what advice would you give for the way forward?
Yeah, obviously I don't, there are thousands of family businesses. I interface with few number, small number. I think there is really a consciousness that governance can be an asset if it's appropriately and intelligently implemented in organization. Particularly, I see it much more when people are thinking long-term. When you think long, but obviously if you are after very short-term profit and you don't care so much, you say, okay, somebody else is going to take care of the company in the future, governance for you is more an obligation than an asset. But if you're thinking long-term and you're thinking about the sustainability of your company for the future, then governance become, frankly, an asset, because you know you're going to have to deal with it. And you have to deal with it in a way where obviously there are laws and regulation and you have to follow them, but there are ways maybe to use them in a way where you can bring more trust, you can bring more motivation into your company. And I'm feeling that there is a real thirst about how to develop governance in a smart way. Smart way being that it's not a bureaucracy, but it is something that supports decision-making inside the company and adaptation of the company to the future. The most important thing is what's your term. Are you short-term or are you long-term? I'm sure as a consultant, you see the difference between the cases. If the family is very short-term oriented, you have a very different case than if the family is more preoccupied with the durability of the business and sustainability of the business. But I think, again, in history, and particularly in governance, you have a pendulum. From time to time it goes far right, and then correct, and then goes to the far left, and it corrects. Today, we are maybe in a pendulum, but it's gonna correct. The most important thing is, let's not be blinded by the fact that at the end of the day, the performance of the company does not depend only on the obligation, but it depends also on the way we change the rules and the processes in the company to prepare it for the future.
So, if you look at your watches, you will appreciate the Japanese time management philosophy and the rigor behind this man and his governance. Thank you, Mr. Ghosn, on behalf of ESA, of the students, of the guests. Your insights will help us not only grow our businesses, but think it differently. So you're all invited to a cocktail reception. If you have nothing to add, Mr. Ghosn, we shall invite everybody to the cocktail reception. Thank you.